Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Malia Hampton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Squadron Leader Stacey Davids. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. We also welcome Don Spinks, Chairman of the Department of Veterans Affairs and Repatriation Commission, and the accompanying delegation. During this evening ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Gunner James Alexander Savage. James Savage was born on the 23rd of October 1914 in Charters Towers, Queensland. As a small child, he came to live with his uncle and aunt, August and Mary Anderson, at their dairy farm in Meaver. He was raised by the couple as a son and as a brother to Doreen and May Anderson. Savage attended Moona Creek School and was a keen sportsman. He was particularly fond of horse riding and from a young age could ride his pony without saddle or bridle. Later, he worked as a farm hand and laborer and was employed as a motor driver when he enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force. Joining up on the 17th of June 1940, Savage began training at the Caloundra Infantry Training Depot before being posted to the newly formed 2nd 10th Field Regiment. He began training with heavy artillery, and in January 1941, he married Kathleen Robinson. On the 2nd of February 1941, Savage embarked with his regiment aboard the Queen Mary, bound for Singapore. As part of the 8th Division, the 2nd 10th then moved to Malacca, where in May, Savage was hospitalized for 2 months with appendicitis. Rejoining his regiment for training maneuvers, in December, Savage was again hospitalized, this time with malaria. He did not rejoin his regiment until January 1942, at which point it was engaged in fighting invading Japanese forces in Malaya. Although the 2nd 10th Regiment kept up its defenses until the very end, enemy forces were overpowering the Allies. On the 14th of February 1942, Commonwealth forces in Malaya surrendered to the Japanese. Gunner Savage was among the thousands of Australians who became prisoners of war in Changi prison camp. At Changi, the Japanese began calling for groups of working parties to travel to various destinations in Thailand, Burma, and the Pacific area. With promises of increased food rations and no labor, Savage was among the more than 3,600 Australians who joined F Force, which left for Thailand on the 18th of April, 1943. F Force's treatment was horrendous. Crammed into trains and then forced to march more than 300 kilometers, many already ill men died before they reached the camp. Over the following months, they were forced to work in appalling conditions on the Burma-Thailand Railway. It wasn't until November that the men of F Force began to be transported back to Changi. Of the original force, more than 1,400 did not return. Gunner James Savage was among those who never made it back. He contracted cardiac beriberi and died in a Thailand camp on the 13th of December 1943. He was 29 years old. He was dearly missed by his wife, mother, sisters, and friends who continued to place in memoriam notices in newspapers for years after his death. One, inserted by his wife, Kathleen, read, "Not just for today, but every day, a thought." Today, his remains lie in the Kanchanaburi War Cemetery under the inscription, "A soldier and a man, now duty nobly done, alive in our memory." Gunner James Alexander Savage's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Gunner James Alexander Savage, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.